Hi, everyone. I know it's the last session of the day, so how are you all doing? Awesome. All right. Well, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Catherine Wu. I'm the Director of Product Management for Facebook Groups. What that means is I get to come into work every day and work with a talented team of technologists, business folks, operations folks, to make sure that when you use Facebook Groups, it's easy, it's efficient, and really effective in helping you find and connect with communities of people that share your interests. So we'll be talking today about some of the changes we're making to Facebook and groups and the different ways that people use groups to build community on Facebook. First, you may know that about 2 years ago, the entire company of Facebook changed its mission to be around giving people the power to build community and to bring the world closer. I came actually to the groups team at that time because I was so compelled by this vision and because groups is really at the heart of it. Ultimately, we envision a world where every person on this planet can feel what it feels like to be part of a community that brings meaning to their lives. And that can mean increasing their sense of belonging. It can mean helping them feel more connected to each other and society. And ultimately, we believe that all of this helps improve people's well-being. And actually, groups has already become a central part of the Facebook experience for so many people. There's 1.4 billion users who already use groups every month. And in addition, 400 million of those people consider their Facebook group to be a meaningful community to them. Today, people use groups for all kinds of things, from everyday moments, like sharing your cute dog photo, which I know a lot of you do, to discussing the latest basketball game and whether or not the refs messed up, to asking your toughest parenting questions and actually getting real practical answers from other parents who understand. More and more, too, we hear stories of people using groups for extraordinary things. Anything from helping each other cope around serious health conditions, to finding homes for the homeless, to even pulling together with your neighbors after a natural disaster to help each other survive. We've seen so many examples, we've heard so many stories from community leaders about how communities can change people's lives. So ultimately, we want to get to a place where everyone sees Facebook this way, as a place to build and discover community. And as you heard earlier, Facebook's going to be making some changes to create a fresh look that puts communities at the center. Let's take a peek at how some of those changes are going to feel.
There's nothing these ladies wouldn't do for each other.
We're all here to help each other out.
Wolfpack for life. We are back at the table.
Awesome. I love that video. So now I'd love to dive deeper into what some of these changes are. So for one, we're introducing a new look. The goal of this is to put communities at the center. So one example of that is the Groups tab, right up there in the Facebook navigation. Here, you'll be able to see a personalized feed across all of your group's content in one place. And we've redesigned and created new tools for you to discover new communities. So for instance, we have a new tool where you can search for groups based on your interests. So let's say I'm hungry, or I'm a foodie, or I'm a wannabe foodie. I can select some interests related to food and drink, then click to see suggested groups, and I'll see a personalized set of results for me for groups that I might like. Another one of our goals with the changes we're making is to make it easier to engage with groups across Facebook wherever you are. And that includes the ability to post content or share with your group in the same way that you would with your friends and family. So that means right from Newsfeed, where you normally would make a post, you'll have some options to share to your latest group. In this case, my Foodies of Denver group that I just joined. Let's say I have some wonderful strawberries that I just grew in my garden, and I wanted to share it to my Foodies group. I could select that group and then create a post, add a photo like I would, and voila. All my group members in this Foodies group can see my delicious strawberries. Another way that groups will be highlighted throughout your Facebook experience is the notion that wherever you go on Facebook, you should see opportunities to join and discover groups. So some examples are on Marketplace, or on Today In, or the Gaming tab, or in Facebook Watch. You'll see opportunities to discover and join new groups. For example, if you're watching Red Table Talk on Facebook Watch, which I'm sure some of you do, we'll be able to show you an option to also join the Red Table Talk fan group. So you can join and discuss with other fans the latest thing that you saw Jada say. In addition to integrating Facebook groups more throughout the Facebook experience, we've also realized that certain kinds of communities have certain kinds of needs. For instance, in health support groups, which are so meaningful to so many people, it can sometimes be hard for members to get up the courage to share a personal experience or question about a sensitive medical condition. So soon, we're going to have the ability for people in this situation to be able to ask the group admin to post on their behalf. This way, the member can get their question answered without sharing their identity. Another example is in job groups. People use groups to find and post jobs today. We're going to be offering a new template for a post, a job listing type, that helps people post job listings. And then we're also going to have easy ways for people to find job listings and actually apply for that job right there through Facebook. Buy-sell groups, which are quite popular, they're going to start to have a dedicated section for items that are being sold that's separate from discussions about those items. This is going to make it easier for people who are in the market to find items to buy. And lastly, we're going to start a new gaming groups pilot. In these groups, it's quite customary for people to want to chat real time with other groups members, maybe rousing each other, maybe about a topic of shared interest. And we will make this easier by allowing you to start a chat without leaving the Facebook app. We're so excited to see so many examples of people building really vibrant groups that bring useful information, support, fun, and entertainment. And we're also starting to see brands really leverage Facebook groups to build authentic connections with their communities of advocates, or customers, or even potential customers. I'd love to walk you through next some examples of brands that are really using Facebook groups in interesting ways. So first, we have Airbnb. If you've ever been an Airbnb host, you may know that hosts sometimes face interesting and unique challenges. Airbnb actually created a program called the Community Leaders Program, and they started to leverage Facebook groups as online places where experienced hosts in a city can connect with other local hosts and start to support one another, help answer each other's questions, share best practices, and ultimately support each other in becoming better hosts. They now have groups across 59 cities They've seen very high engagement, and more importantly, they've seen really active conversations back and forth between one another, indicating that people are really having conversations. JoyTunes is an app where people can learn how to play musical instruments virtually. And although doing so is very convenient, one thing they've learned is it can be lonely, actually. So what they've done is create a group called Simply Piano for different people learning piano to ask questions, share tips, share resources, and also get advice from music education experts. Now, after launching these groups, they've seen increased engagement, and they've also been able to add a human element to their music lessons. And this is an interesting story. So Condé Nast Traveler is a luxury and lifestyle travel brand. In 2017, around International Women's Day, they published a series of articles highlighting female travelers with inspiring stories. And they saw such good reaction and conversation around this, they wanted to continue the conversation. They did so by creating a Facebook group called Women Who Travel. And not only does that group have incredibly interesting connections, conversations, and engagement, but they've also used it to source content. The stories that have been shared in that group have then become content that they can use in their podcast, as well as online articles. They've also created trips for fellow travelers from the group to go on. So now, as another example of a brand that's really leveraging community, we're going to be talking with one of the biggest brands in sports. First, though, to understand what their communities are all about, we're going to show you a quick video. It's my pleasure to welcome up Emily Maxey, who's the VP of Global Marketing for Adidas.
Hi, Emily. Thanks, Catherine, and hi, everyone. I have to say, I know that was a precarious
lower
moment.
than I thought it was going to be.
I've been at Adidas for 8 years, and I still get excited every time I see one of those videos.
Oh my God, I was so pumped up. I got to go running now.
I know, it's almost motivating me to run.
Almost.
Not quite.
Yeah, almost. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'd love it if you could start out, Emily, by just telling us a little bit about your role at Adidas.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. I have the absolute pleasure of leading one of our dynamic chapters of our marketing organization called the Adidas Newsrooms. So we are really the publishing engine for the Adidas brand. And by that, I mean we own and drive the strategy around PR, social, and influencer marketing. That manifests itself through 9 global newsrooms around the world that are really responsible for making sure that we're landing our brand moments, our brand stories, our products, and connecting with consumers in the most dynamic way possible across all of our publishing platforms.
That's awesome. So I'd love to start. I know community is really important to Adidas. I'd love to learn, why is it so important?
Yeah, our core belief at Adidas is that through sport, we have the power to change lives. And we really believe that communities are an integral way of helping breathe life into that brand belief. And we take this concept of changing lives very literally. Of course, that manifests itself in a variety of different ways, both large and small. It could be anything from really helping break down barriers for girls to be more active and participatory in sport. It could be helping athletes achieve their personal best through our production and distribution of innovative products and services. It could be helping someone shave 10 seconds off of a personal record. And it can even just simply be about inspiring people to be more active, and through that activity, finding more confidence in their day-to-day life.
So how exactly does Communities support all of this?
Yeah, so Communities has been a core part of the Adidas DNA for quite some time. Our legacy in sport and culture has sort of naturally and organically woven communities into our day-to-day for many years, and that could be a community from a group of soccer fans all the way through to sneakerheads and kind of everything in between. But even though it's been a real natural part of what we've done for many years, a few years ago, we identified an incredible opportunity to leverage our platform as a leading sport brand to be much more intentional around how we create space for communities to thrive and exist. So what that looked like in real life was a group of us, and I was fortunate to be part of this small team that really did quite a bit of discovery around what communities could look like for Adidas. So we did a ton of research, both internally and externally, studying what makes communities not just spark, but really sustain, what makes communities thrive. And through that work, we developed what is now what I would consider a quite sophisticated community strategy. There's really three components that really anchor our community strategy, and those are physical, digital, and purpose. So from a physical perspective, in this ever-increasing digital reality that we all live in, we see massive opportunity and necessity for real-life connection, of bringing like-minded people together in a safe environment to really share their interests, encourage one another, and create that true sense of belonging and connection. We also see, obviously, the need for digital platforms, whether it's platforms like Facebook groups and our own Adidas apps and our own .com, to really foster and facilitate that connection and help us scale it. And last, and honestly most importantly, is purpose. We believe fundamentally in the importance of identifying what value or purpose you're bringing to an individual or a group of people as the starting point for any community. So while it's easy to default to, I need to sell more shoes, which is a significant reality at Adidas, that shouldn't necessarily be the core, the heartbeat of one's community strategy. It's about starting with a consumer insight, really getting to understand where is that space where communities are asking for support, and what role can we play as a brand in terms of delivering against those needs.
You know, it's really interesting to hear you say that you really invested in deep research. Similarly, at Facebook groups, we too, and our research team, really tried to study what makes a community meaningful. It'd be really interesting to hear what you said. So I'm just curious, what do your communities look like in action?
Yeah, so today we have three really thriving communities. Adidas Runners, which you guys saw a film about. We also have one called the Tango League and a women's studio. So Adidas Runners is obviously our running community. We currently have over 300,000 active participants and active Adidas Runners communities in 60 different cities. And that community is actually powered by Facebook groups. Our second community is a soccer community called Tango Squad or Tango League, and we have around 30,000 active players that are part of the Tango League across, I think, 39 cities. And then last and finally, we have women's studios in Paris and London with about 7,000 active members. And that community is really about creating and providing access to fitness and sport in cities like Paris and London, where fitness can actually be quite expensive.
Cool. So you mentioned how you're using Facebook and what products you're using. I'm curious if you could just go deeper into how does Facebook kind of help you power these communities?
Absolutely. So Facebook is an integral part of the operationalizing of our Adidas communities. And as I mentioned earlier, we really are leveraging the full Facebook suite of apps, from Facebook groups through to Messenger and Instagram, et cetera. So what that looks like in real life, I'll use Adidas Runners as an example. We have a global Facebook page that is really the center of gravity of all of our local Facebook groups. So setting up this and structuring that way enables a couple of things. One, from a brand perspective, it gives us the opportunity and the platform to connect with and broadcast to all 300,000 members of the Adidas Runners community at one time, should we need to. So it's a really powerful mechanism for kind of rallying the entire global community at once. What it also does is provide the opportunity for those community members to connect with one another without the facilitation of Adidas. So your product, your platform, enables them to outreach, connect, share tips, et cetera. But it also, a perfect example of this, of the value of this in real life, is imagine that you are a runner that's part of the LA Adidas running community, and you're going on holiday or vacation to Paris, as an example. You can quickly and easily connect with the Paris Adidas Runners community and immediately have a network to connect with, run with, explore the city with. So it's a great enabling tool to allow our community members to discover one another, share tips, et cetera. Relative to Adidas Runners, we also use Instagram quite actively as another tool to really celebrate the rich archive of stories that exist within these communities. So if you think about those 300,000 members of that community, that's 300,000 individual stories about whether, again, someone's a marathon runner that's really looking to shave time off of their personal record, or someone that's just starting their running journey. So within that, we are really constantly looking for those amazing, rich stories that we can celebrate through apps like Instagram.
Yep. That's interesting. We do see across Facebook groups oftentimes that use case that you mentioned where someone's traveling somewhere and they make a post and then they meet people in their local community that just kind of come out of the woodwork at times. Cool. So I'm curious, what does success look like for your Adidas group?
Success looks like a couple of different things that I would frame in the words sort of spark and sustain. So from a spark perspective, we're constantly looking at ways that we can update, refresh, and evolve our communities to be adding the most purpose and value to our community members as possible. And then sustain is making sure that that foundation is in place for them to exist with longevity. A lot of that longevity comes from the ability of these communities to be somewhat self-sustaining. So success for us is really about enabling our community members to access and activate the community sort of with or without Adidas. So we consider ourselves the enabler of these communities, but it's really the community members themselves that are the heartbeat. Yep. So we like to say we're the house, and we invite these community members in to really decorate and use the house. So a community that's quite self-sustaining and one that we're continuously updating with new programming to keep those community members active, engaged, and inspired. And last, I think it's also important and worth mentioning, particularly in light of the keynote this morning and Mark's emphasis around safety. The other thing that's really important about our communities is we run them with a very strict code of conduct. And again, in this ever-increasing sort of digital world where people are connecting, we want to make sure, with people that may not have been in their pre-existing network, we need to make sure that we're doing so in such a way that they can feel like it's a really safe and secure environment for them to plug into.
Yep, that's ever important for us as well. So Emily, one thing I loved about what you said earlier was your mission to change people's lives through sport. And I'm curious if there's any examples of this happening in your communities.
Definitely, Catherine. I mean, there's so many that it's hard to really narrow it down to just a few, but I'll do my best. So the first example that pops into mind is a young woman that's part of one of our LA Adidas Runners communities. This was a woman that actually ran competitively through high school and through college, and after 8 years of that, she found herself quite burnt out on the sport. So she took a couple of years off and then realized she really missed it. So by plugging into the Adidas Runners community, it really helped her reignite and re-engage her love of running, but in a new capacity that made sense for this stage of her life. So that was exciting to see. The second example that pops into mind is again, a young woman that's part of one of our New York running communities. And we actually see this example time and time again of someone that's, in this case, she had moved to New York. She was brand new there, didn't actually know anyone. She actually was not a runner, but she had heard about Adidas runners and really leveraged that as more of an opportunity to actually meet new people. But then because of that community, she has actually discovered a love of running, and she's now a really active participant in the Adidas Runners New York community. And then last and finally, and examples like this always just blow me away, even within the Adidas brand, but there's a young man that's part of our Tango League, so that's our soccer community. And by plugging into the Tango League and increasing his playing time, he was playing with our community week after week. He was actually discovered recently and has been signed into a professional football club in the UK.
Oh my God.
So as you can see, kind of both from a large to small, everyday moments ways to kind of big, massive, life-changing ways, these communities really are enabling athletes to kind of experience and achieve their personal best and really make a difference in their games, their life, and ultimately the world.
I feel like you guys should get a cut of that soccer contract.
I agree.
I know.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I'd love to shift gears a bit and ask you about a product that I heard you're using called the Facebook Pixel for Groups.
Yep.
And this helps you understand how people who are interacting in the Facebook group then move on to your website and what behaviors they take there. I'd love to learn and share back with our team how that's going for you.
Definitely. So admittedly, we are still at the very beginning stages of our journey with the Facebook Pixel for Groups. But ultimately, our mission is to really be able to quantify a direct correlation between community members and sales, so connect community with commerce. Again, it's really early days, but we're quite confident. I mean, we know and have a lot of experience, obviously, in more engaged communities through things like our membership programs. And within those membership programs, we've realized a significantly higher customer lifetime value, significantly higher purchasing frequency. I think it's also important to note that we're not just looking at conversion, although clearly that's a key driver, but we're also looking at things like brand loyalty, brand affinity. So we do have some early indicators coming out of the Facebook Pixel that we're leveraging today, and it's all of the early indications are showing an incredibly positive trend as to the results of this. So it's still early days, but we're excited to double down in that space.
That's great to hear. So you've already used so many different products and like really deeply integrated, but if you look ahead to the future, what do you think are potential future opportunities with Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say we're incredibly proud of the progress that we've made over the last few years, and I certainly can take very little credit for it. We've got an incredible team at Adidas that's really driving the programming around all of our Adidas communities. So it's exciting to see how far we've come. But I would say, much like how I described our journey with the Facebook Pixel, we're still at the very beginning stages of what's possible relative to these communities. We imagine that we have tremendous runway ahead of us. So first and foremost, it would be sort of foundationally doubling down on our existing communities. We still see, tremendous opportunity to grow and evolve the ones that are existing, to add new cities to our communities, and to expand in the cities where we're already active. But beyond and additional to that, we actually are now really excited to start bringing and leveraging these communities into some of our business operations. So we are a brand that really values the concept of open source. And I know, Catherine, working for a tech company, that's a concept that you should be quite familiar with. But we fundamentally believe and really look for opportunities to bring people into some of our brand planning processes. And that could be community members, it could be athletes, it could be entertainers. So an example of where we've actually already done this is we have indeed tapped into some of our football or soccer communities to leverage them to do some product testing for us and give feedback on products. And recently, we went through a round of that feedback, and the feedback that came through from the football or the soccer communities was so rich and so insightful that we actually did indeed use it to make some product adjustments before we brought this particular product to market.
Awesome.
So we are excited to continue down that path and really tap into these communities as a rich sort of treasure trove of insights that we can leverage as a brand. But in addition to that, I think there's tremendous opportunities from the community members themselves. I mean, we've, for example, been using some of our community members in some of our content and our advertising materials, which I think obviously is quite exciting for them to be featured in a global brand campaign. But it also, we've seen incredible engagement on this content, and I think our consumers outside of those communities or within them really understand kind of that peer-to-peer connection that they're seeing come through in our content. So we've seen, like I said, really positive engagement around that as well. So ultimately, in terms of where we're going with our communities, it's about continuing to spark and sustain this real value exchange between us and the consumer, where we can tap into these consumers, again, for their rich insights, et cetera, but also provide them with access and opportunity that is unmistakably Adidas.
It's a cool opportunity for them to have their content be leveraged by you guys. And I'm sure people can tell it's authentic, right? It's just like the Condé Nast example. Okay, so we are almost out of time, but just to wrap up, what words of wisdom or advice would you share for those out there who might be trying to leverage communities to help their brand?
Yeah, in terms of advice, I would just harken back to what I said earlier around the sort of 3 anchors of our community strategy: physical, digital, and purpose. I think understanding and facilitating the power of physical connection, of bringing like-minded people together to really share that sense of belonging, shared interests, et cetera. And then powering that through incredible digital technology, leveraging things like Facebook groups to facilitate that ongoing connection and that scaling of a community. And the third, and again, most important, is really purpose, understanding and identifying where you, your brand, et cetera, can add unique value and purpose to a consumer or a community. And then my last final piece of advice is I would encourage all of you to join the Adidas Runners community. We would love to have you. We're active in many cities across the US and globally, as I said, so we'd love to have you be a part of our community as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily. I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Definitely join the group. We'd love to have you fill out the survey. I'm sure you've been hearing that from other sessions as well. And next up is the after party. So see you guys there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.